All right, so in this lesson, you're going to take what you know about GCF and LCM and you're going to apply it to a word problem. Now, the thing with word problems is that you need to know whether you're doing GCF or LCM because the word problem is not going to tell you, hey, you need to use GCF here or hey, you need to use LCM. So your goal is I will decide if I need to use GCF or if I need to use LCM, and then you should know how to solve the word problem. So, how do you know when you need to use what? Well, if it is a GCF word problem, it's going to give you some hints. It's going to use the word greatest. It's going to use the word most. It's going to use the word largest. Okay? Now, that is usually what it's going to say, and that's going to usually be in the question part. So, what's the greatest amount of groups that can be created? What's the most amount of groups that can be created? What's the largest amount of baskets that can be created? Now, sometimes it won't use those words. So, sometimes it's going to say, things, or sometimes it's going to ask you about groups that can be created, about rows that can be created, or sections that can be created. Okay, this would also tell you that it's a GCF type of question. Now, what if it doesn't ask you about those things? Well, then it might be an LCM question. So, LCM word problems are going to use the word least, or the word smallest, or a word similar to those, okay? Now, an LCM question may not use words like least or smallest, just like GCF problems may not use words like greatest, most, or largest. And in some cases, it may talk about events that repeat itself. So, for example, a train comes to the station every 7 minutes and every 9 minutes. How often will it come to the station together? See, that's an event that's repeating itself because the train comes to the station every this many minutes and every this many minutes. How many times will it come together? So that's going to be an LCM problem as well. And we're going to look at those types of problems. So here's the first example. Mr. Rodriguez is organizing his classroom supplies for students into baskets. He has 49 markers, 35 rulers, and 42 glue sticks. What is the greatest number of baskets Mr. Rodriguez can make by using all the supplies? How many of each supply will there be per basket? So the first thing that I see here is that it uses the word greatest. So make sure that you underline that, box it, or highlight it, okay? Now you can see that I had circled those numbers throughout because I knew that they would be important whether it was an LCM question or a GCF question, because I would either be finding the LCM or the GCF. Now that I see the word greatest, I know that this is going to be a GCF question, okay? So I'm going to be finding the GCF of 49, 35, and 42. So let me do that now. So 49, 35, and 42, okay? So 49 is going to go into 2 sevens. 35 is going to go into 7 and 5. 42 is going to go into 7 and 6, but that's going to break down into 2 and 3. Now, where are my matches? So I have a 7, a 7, and a 7. So I'm going to bring over a 7. And I don't have any other matches because I have a 7 here, but no other 7s. I have a 5 here, but no other 5s. A 2 here, but no other 2s. So the first part of this answer is that Mr. Rodriguez can make 7 baskets. Okay, that's the GCF. But there's a second question. How many of each supply will there be per basket? So what I need to do is how many markers per basket, how many rulers per basket, and how many glue sticks per basket. Now all I have to do is take my GCF and divide it back into these numbers right here. So let's start with markers. What's 49 divided by 7? 7. Now let's do rulers. What's 35 divided by 7? 5. Now glue sticks. What's 42 divided by 7? 6. So what I did is I took each one of those numbers and I divided it by the GCF. Okay, so let's look at our next example. Hot dogs come in packs of 8. Rolls come in packs of 12. Oops, circle. What is the least number of packs each Sean should buy to have enough to serve 24 people and have none left over? So I see the word least, and that's going to tell me LCM. Now, this number 24 right here can throw some people off. It's actually not part of the problem. It's just telling me that she wants to serve 24 people. And so, I need to know that. Now, what it wants me to do is find the LCM of 12 and 8, but then it also wants to know how many packs of hot dogs and how many packs of rolls. Okay, so let's do the LCM of 12 and 8. So I have 8, 16, 24, 32, and 40, and I'll stop right there. 12, 24, 36, 48, and I'm going to stop right there. So if you notice, the LCM is actually 24. And what I didn't want to tell you is that the problem already actually gave you the LCM. She wants enough to serve 24 people. But what it wants to know is how many packs of hot dogs and how many packs of rolls. So I now need to take each one, just like we did in the last problem, and divide it back into the LCM. Okay, so what is 8 divided by 24? 3. What is 12 divided by 24? 2. All right, example 3. The local recreation center held a scavenger hunt. There were 15 boys and 9 girls. The group was divided into the greatest number of teams possible with the same number of boys on each team and the same number of girls. How many teams were made if each person was on a team? So I see the word greatest here, and that's going to tell me that this problem is GCF. Oops, that's supposed to be a C. So I'm going to be finding the GCF of 15 and 9. So let me do that now. So 15 is 5 and 3, and 9 is 3 and 3. And when I cross out my matches, I get 3. So for the first question is how many teams were made? Well, that's 3. Then it wants to know how many boys per team and how many girls per team. Well, all I do is I divide it back into the number. So what's 15 boys divided by 3 teams? 5. What's 9 girls divided by 3 teams? 3. So before I move on, you're going to find the GCF or the LCM first. Then, if it asks you additional questions, sometimes it won't, sometimes it will. If it asks you extra questions, you take that GCF or LCM and you divide it back into the numbers. All right, you try this one. All right, go ahead and hit pause if you're not done. So, first off, this was an LCM question because we have the word least right here. Secondly, I found the LCM of 8 and 10. It actually again told us what the LCM was in the problem, but it was kind of sneaky about it. It says Debbie wants to invite 40 people to her birthday. Okay, that was the LCM. And the reason why you know that is because then she starts listing the supplies that she needs. She needed invitations, she needed stamps. People to the party, that's not a supply. Okay, if you look at the question, she asks how many stamps she needs to buy and how many invitations she needs to purchase. She doesn't ask about the people, how many people she needs to buy. Okay, so you know that you don't need to find that. So once you find the LCM of 8 and 10, you get 40, which works because that's what it gave you in the problem. But you should always redo it just in case, because it doesn't take you but 20, 30 seconds. Then, once I found 40, it asked me how many packs of invitations and how many sheets of stamps. So I did 8 the invitations that come in packs of 8 divided by into 40 is 5, and then I did sheets of 10 stamps into 40, which is 4. All right, you try this one. All right, go ahead and hit pause if you're not done. So in this problem, we saw that it is GCF because we have the word greatest right here. And so we're finding the GCF of 32 blue balloons, 24 yellow balloons, and 16 white balloons. Okay, so once I did all of my factor trees here, I came up with 3 matches of 2's, which would give me 8. Okay, now 8 is my GCF, so I can make 8 arrangements of balloons. Now it's asking me specifically how many blue, how many yellow, and how many white. So then I take my GCF and I divide it back in to each color. So start with blue. 32 divided by 8 is 4. Yellow. 24 divided by 8 is 3. Last one. White. 16 divided by 8 is 2. All right, that is it for GCF LCM word problems. We are going to do so much more practice in class.